This is episode 49 with Adam Ward.
Welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, the show that empowers you to become the hero of your life's journey. With your host, Brian Tier.
Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast. Episode 49, we're approaching 50, and today I'm excited to be speaking to Adam Ward. Now, if you haven't heard of him, Adam is an artist and professional, wait for it, Lego builder. Yes, you heard me correctly. At 33 years old, Adam has been building Lego for over 30 years and jokes that it's the only thing he loves longer than boobs and macaroni. But this is not just a fun hobby for Adam. He's created major installations for Zappos, the Oscars, Tumblr, Warner Brothers, and his work has even been featured in magazines and places like Oprah.com. He's currently working on large-scale collaborations with companies like Nestle, Microsoft, and is the resident artist at Bricksburg, where the next several Lego movies are being made. Adam believes that play and creativity are two of the most important things in life and strives to play and create every day. In this episode, he's going to share with us how we can do the same. And in this show, you're going to learn why the traditional path isn't working, dealing with pressure from loved ones when pursuing a different career path, the difference between a dream and a goal, why play and creativity are so important, how to turn your hobbies into an income, and what to do when you don't know what you're passionate about. As always, you can get the links and resources that we mentioned in the show at briantier.com/049. But for now, I think you're going to like this one. Let's go hang out with Adam. Welcome back, everyone, and a big welcome to today's guest. I'm speaking to Adam Ward. Adam, welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback.
Brian, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, now, Adam, I am really excited to have you on the show. And I've been wanting to get more people in the creative space on the show because a big part of what I think this podcast is about and what I speak about on my website as well is inspiring people that there's not one correct path in life and that they can choose their own way, that they don't have to do what everyone is telling them they're supposed to do. And that's why I think creatives in general and you specifically are really a perfect sort of message and guest to have on. So for people listening and they're wondering, like, what the hell am I talking about? Why don't you tell us a bit about what it is you do and then also your quarter life story?
I am a professional freelance Lego artist, which a lot of people like just make a funny face or tilt their head or remind me that that's not a job when I tell them what I do. So I make furniture, art installations. I support events, making all sorts of things using Lego bricks. I was a huge Lego fan as a kid. And I also host a show on Soul Pancake called Brick by Brick, where I teach people how to build things with Lego that can positively affect their life, their community, their workspace, their anything, and really try to bring about positive change using Lego.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love that. When I was growing up, Lego was like my favorite thing in the world too, but never considered that could ever be a career. But what were your sort of 20s like? Did the Lego thing kind of grow from childhood, or did you do a normal job beforehand and then switch over? How did that sort of pan out?
So my 20s were really a time of trying to figure things out. I think for all of us, we're out of school, university. We have this idea of what adulthood looks like, and we're kind of working toward it. And even though we know that it means moving out from living with our parents and getting some sort of stability, I think for a lot of people, increasingly, a traditional job isn't really working. So for me, I came out to Los Angeles. I acted as a kid, so I had this idea of being an actor, being a writer, being doing something in entertainment. And while I did a bunch of things, it wasn't giving me the stability. It wasn't giving me the freedom to create kind of on my with my own rules that I was really looking for. and I helped some friends start a business, a food truck. And that was one of the first times that I had hands-on experience of turning an idea into an actual thing, which is one of, I think, the most amazing things we can do in our lives is not just to have ideas, but to actually act on them. And for about a year, I put energy and love and money and all of these things into this food truck business. It ultimately didn't work, but it was a really great reminder of how to turn something that's just an idea into a physical thing. And while having a food truck wasn't my dream, being able to create and set some of my own rules really was. So I really thought about what that might look like. And I had happened to post some photos online of some Lego creations, and they got way more traction than any photo of like me doing something that I thought was really cool or jumping off something really high. So I was like, oh, I think people are into this. So I launched a Kickstarter campaign to raise some money, and it was successful and got to start speaking with some companies, and things started snowballing from there. And instead of doing something with 50 bricks or 200 bricks, I was all of a sudden doing installations with 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 Lego bricks.
Wow.
And very organically and pretty rapidly, this is just like 4.5 years ago now. It was showing me, like, I was getting the positive feedback that I needed to believe in this idea and believe in this life path.
Yeah, and so it sounds like you never really planned that this would become a thing, but you did it as kind of like a hobby, and it kind of grew from there. So what were you doing? Were you still doing the food truck while this was growing at the same time?
No, when that stopped, I was putting a lot of my energy into making a great, catchy Kickstarter video and to figuring out what I wanted to build and reaching out to like all of my contacts that I had picked up along the way to really, really blast it out. I'm still doing like odd jobs like event production, and we'd get an acting gig here or there. But yeah, I was really just trying to like piecemeal a living together while I was launching this.
Yeah, I can totally relate. Kind of doing all the odd things to keep the bills being paid. All right, cool.
Right.
And what I love about that is that, you, without maybe knowing it at the time, is you tested your idea before just diving into it. You were posting the pictures and seeing like, oh, well, people actually dig this stuff. Let's see if there's something more behind that. And I think that's really valuable for people listening. Something
totally.
Yeah. Something.
I was just going to say that.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that there are these things that companies do, like market research and sort of like polling people that, used to cost a ton of money, and you used to need resources and infrastructure to do that. But now we can just post photos online and get basically instant feedback. So that was like a super useful tool for me.
Yeah. Something you said in the intro was that, the traditional path of getting a job isn't working. Why do you think that is?
I think we're a generation of questioning dynamics and questioning infrastructure. The phone that's in our pocket right now isn't the same phone we had 6 months ago or a year ago, or certainly 2 years ago. While like our parents had the same phone for like 40 years. And that's just like a novel example. But like we're always taking things and breaking them apart and looking at how we can improve them or change them or make them more suitable for us. Taxis weren't working for people, and now Lyft and Uber are everywhere. Traditional food delivery wasn't working for people, and now there's like all these new platforms for just like, food delivery. Mm-hmm. So I think these are all little, like, they may be novel examples, but they're showing that we are a generation of figuring things out. And the idea of working for somebody else for 45 years and then retiring and then getting to travel and then getting to do all these things, it seems kind of ridiculous when you really examine it. There are some people who love being part of, a huge machine and are satisfied with a role like that. And I don't mean to disparage it at all, but I do think that there's increasingly, maybe because of, how much music we're listening to, how much art we're looking at, how open our eyes are, a lot of individuals that doesn't suit. And thank goodness that there's so many ways of connecting with other people and making a living in a non-traditional way.
Yeah, one of the questions I ask all my guests, which you're going to get later on, is like, what's the biggest opportunity for quarter lifers or young adults today? And a lot of them have said it's the technology. And I think that paired with people like starting to question what they're really doing is kind of where all these new opportunities are coming up. So it's really cool. We see a lot of people saying like, just quit your job and go travel or whatever. And I'm kind of saying that like there's nothing wrong with doing a 9-to-5 job if that's what lights you up and that's what you're passionate about, or you want to be like a lawyer or a doctor or an architect or something like that. But I think the shift in mindset is like you don't have to be if that's not what you feel called to do. And I think that's really the cool part about our sort of generation is people are realizing that and acting on it.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, how old were you now? So the Lego stuff starts picking up. How old were you at this stage?
It was like mid-20s.
Okay. Cool.
When, I mean, there was a moment before I'd ever thought of actually doing something professionally using Lego as a medium. And my roommate at the time had got an Apple TV. And it was overheating on top of our receiver. And he said, "Hey, can you go get a shelf so the Apple TV stops overheating?" And I was like, of course. My roommate like paid for the Apple TV, paid for the stereo, the television. I was like, the least I could do is go get a shelf. Still didn't have much money at the time. I went to Target to look for a shelf, and a lot of the options were really crappy. And I don't like buying crappy things. It's just kind of a philosophy that I've had for a long time. So I was like, you know what? I'll go to Home Depot. I'll pick up some wood or little material and I'll build my own. And walking out of Target, I walked down the Lego aisle, as I like to do. And I was like, wait a second. I have a box of Lego. I have a box of Lego under my bed at home. I'm not going to go use wood or, something to build the shelf. I'm going to make the shelf out of Lego. And that was really the first time that I thought of using Lego outside of a play space. I mean, in school, I used it for a handful of projects, but I saw Lego mostly as a toy. And I built the shelf. It worked great. And that was a really exciting moment for me. And at the time, I didn't see it as a career moment. It felt just like a way to look at something that I loved in a new way. Because I like Star Wars, but I don't have the need for a Death Star in my apartment. I like Harry Potter, but I don't need a scale model Hogwarts. But as a kid, I loved Lego and needed toys around. And as an adult, I loved Lego, but I didn't know what to use them for. So that's when I started making coasters and picture frames and a place to put my keys and a dock for my iPhone. And all of a sudden, it was like pulling this medium that I really only played with as a kid, like into my adulthood in a really practical and fun way.
Yeah, I love that. So, like, I need to ask, what did your parents say when you told them, like, I'm going to be doing this thing with Lego and this is like what I'm going to pursue right now?
So many people wonder that because I can imagine parents being like, what? My parents have been wonderfully supportive. And I think it's because I don't ask for very much, If I was like, hey, I'm going to be a Lego artist, can I have $5,000? It is a little bit different than like, hey, I'm going to be a Lego artist and I will see you at Thanksgiving. So I think my ability to sort of be a Swiss Army knife and do all of these things to keep myself afloat and to make a living, most of my 20s, where I know some friends were relying heavily on parental support. I think that kind of lessened the blow when I was like, hey guys, I'm going to play with Lego.
Yeah, and I love that you use the word play and not like work. But so you had like really supportive parents, and I did too when I decided to quit my job and kind of do my own thing. But I do realize that not everyone has that luxury. So for people listening and they have like this more creative idea in mind, but their friends and family maybe aren't as supportive, what advice do you give for people that like are faced with pressure from other people, thinking that they can't make a living from that?
I mean, I think saying unsupportive is like a little bit of a misnomer. I think it's that the parents aren't sure how to support a child embarking on a journey that they don't understand. So they want to support them to keep them on the safe path that they do understand a little bit more. I think it's just like a different kind of support. So kind of knowing that for the most part, our parents are like really looking out for us and have our best interests, for somebody who is embarking on a new journey and interested in being an artist or musician or a blogger or an entrepreneur or whatever that looks like, and more of a non-traditional path. I think that the way we approach these things can have a really big impact. If it's like, oh, I want to be a blogger, but the person who wants to be a blogger has, not done any reading or writing or practicing. It's just sort of more of like a dream than a goal. I think that energetic difference has a really big shift. It's like when I was telling people that I was working on becoming a professional Lego artist, their incredulity, which totally made sense, went away when I would open up my phone and show them things that I had built. And they would start to see that when I was really putting in energy and time, there was some skill involved. It wasn't just, looking at a booklet and building a spaceship. And there's nothing wrong with looking at a booklet and building a spaceship. But I think having a goal and having a dream are different things. Like a dream is, I want to fly to space with just by myself. I don't have like a practical approach to do that. A goal is I want to make a wonderful living creating things out of Lego and share them with the world. And that's a goal that I'm working towards. And there are like concrete steps that I have taken and continue to take. Whereas, just flying around, throwing a peace sign up to planet Earth, that's not something that, I get up in the morning and work towards. That's just something that seems, amazing.
Yeah, I love the distinction of like, if we think people are unsupportive, it's just because they can't see yet how we plan on doing something. And I think that also comes back to starting something on the side and not just jumping in and like seeing if there's actually a market for it and figuring out like how your approach would look. So that was really cool.
Thanks, man.
You mentioned on your about page on your website, which I'll link up in the show notes, that you believe that creativity and play are two of the most important things in life. Could you share a little bit more about why you think that is, and then how we can incorporate more of that into our own lives?
Certainly. I believe it is certainly for me, and I think it's probably the case for everybody, that if you think back to school, like what was the most fun you had at school, and maybe not every day, there's certainly subjects that fired us up, but like recess for me was very rarely the low point of my day. I mean, maybe occasionally getting picked last or missing some crucial shot in some game or tripping. But other than that, like recess has always been like one of my favorite things in life, just running around and creating and having a loose structure, but not so much where we're sitting in a chair and looking at a book and writing something down and repeating some knowledge. I think that there's the Einstein quote. I think it's Einstein, that you can learn more about Einstein is creativity is intelligence having fun. Mm-hmm. There's another person who's very smart who said that you can learn more about somebody in an hour of play than you can in a year of conversation. And I think that when we dissolve some of the boundaries that we're very used to bumping into and very used to obeying, but just a ton of opportunity comes up. And sometimes when I feel stuck on a piece or I'm in a rut, I'll go for a walk or a jog or go shoot some hoops or just go, do something fun, do something different from what I'm currently working on. And it's been so valuable to me. And I also think that being happy is so important. And when people are chasing financial goals, when people are chasing physical things, cars, cool VR headset goggles, the brand new phone, for the most part, those things are a means to an end. Those things are, I will be happy when blank. I will be happy when I have the Xbox 10. I will be happy when I have a hoverboard. I will be happy when blank. And if we can stop imagining our happiness being this conditional thing that happens in the future if certain goals are met, and remember that we can be happy bouncing a ball against a wall. I think everybody has the time to, whether it's a ball or something else, just to get a little bit of recreation and fun, like into every single day. And that, for me, has certainly been the case. I skateboard to work sometimes. I play games with my dog. Like I get people around the space where I work to engage in silliness and fun. And even if it's for a few minutes, it makes such a huge difference.
So you skateboard to work, play with Lego and your dog, and go home. Yeah, and the other important thing I think is that, like, certainly for me, and I think for pretty much everybody, those are the times where we have like our big breakthrough ideas, is when we're like taking a shower or at the gym or going for a walk. It's not when you're sitting in front of your laptop, like knocking out work, where you have these like big breakthrough ideas. So I think it's good for stress and our happiness, but it also helps our work. So I think it's I completely
agree. Mm-hmm. And like, it's kind of like almost hack now, but in like so many movies, there's that moment where the detective can't crack the case or the scientist can't figure out the equation, and they're not in their place of work. They're somewhere else. And all of a sudden they have that Eureka moment. Eureka, even the word, comes from a scientist, I forget who, taking a bath and having an aha moment to refigure this equation. And Eureka was the name of his wife, and he started screaming her name because he figured something out. And his office, his lab, wasn't the bathtub. Yeah. He was just in the bathtub, maybe playing submarine, maybe doing whatever. But that's like, I think the idea is shown to us so many times because it comes from a real place.
Mm-hmm. I know you did like an installation for the Oscars, but what is some of the sort of coolest things that you've experienced from your work, and maybe like one of your favorite things that you've built?
There have been so many things that I've got that I'm like, as the conversations have solidified and I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to make this thing. I've gotten really excited. I've done a few murals. I did a mural at Zappos, which is a really cool brand, not just because they're a great company, but because they're awesome to their people and they really encourage play at their headquarters in downtown Las Vegas. I did like a 70,000 piece installation in their lobby. I'm doing some work with the folks behind the Lego movies right now, and I did installation at their office where I did a huge place is called Bricksburg, like from the Lego movie, and I did a huge mural, and I really got to play a lot with that one, which was great. I just built a globe, which is now in Germany, a 4-foot in diameter globe, which weighed like 220 pounds, which is the heaviest thing I've ever made out of Lego. And it was so challenging. I get really excited when I get to do something that I haven't done before, because I'm figuring out all sorts of new things along the way. And when something that I create gets to live in a public space and people get to see it and touch it, a lot of my pieces have like an interactive element to it where you can add additional bricks to the border, or I'll create some openings where you can fill stuff in. So the pieces really become, part of the environment and not just something that you stand back from and can't touch. And I see people get to interact with it, or I see a kid see it for the first time. That totally lights me up. I get really excited. Because when I was a kid, I remember the first time I ever went to a Lego store and my mouth was just hanging open as I stared at this enormous dragon with this neck that looped around. And the internet wasn't around really when I was a kid. I didn't have access to just like huge Lego creations, Google image search, go. Yeah. This was the first time in my life that I'd seen something like that. And to be on the other end of it, to be able to create something that inspires awe and excitement and reminds people, how far we can take our creativity. That's one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah. I realize asking you the favorite thing you built is like asking which is your favorite child. So I'm sorry for that. Was there a point where you thought you were just kidding yourself and you felt like quitting?
Yes, absolutely. Multiple times.
And how did you kind of get over that?
I think that there's this idea that when we start doing something, as we go along, as we spend more time doing it, it'll just get easier and easier. We'll make more and more money. Like it'll be this kind of like smooth ascension is this idea. And it's maybe for some people it is, but for me, it has not been that. There have been, opportunities that sound really great and I put a ton of energy into them and then they fall through, or something doesn't come out the way that I think it will, or a company changes their mind at the last minute and it's, just some budget line item for them on an event. But for me, it's like, whoa, that was my spring income. And I got married last year. And I think that one of the biggest wake-up calls in getting married, other than it's the best thing in the world. Stacy is incredible and has been so wonderfully supportive. But one of the things that really awoke in me was that it's not just me. It's not just me like, oh, I'll figure it out. I'll, kind of float for this period of time between these installations. It really motivated me to work toward building a company that works and building toward a career that really works, not just for me, but for both of us and for, in the future, our entire family. So I think even the really hard times in making this, that seemed so terrible in those moments. If I zoom out a little bit, even though the graph is jagged, the overall arc of the graph is still certainly positive. And I'm all about making yesterday's ceiling or last month's ceiling your new floor, and being excited and satisfied, maybe not satisfied, being excited and happy with where we're at, but not satisfied and not content. And not so much that we don't appreciate what we have right now. Because all of the jobs that I'm currently working on, if you told me 3 years ago that I'd be doing them, I would just jump up and do a dance and buy a round of shots and have a huge smile on my face. And now it's been such an incremental set of steps to get there that it feels really normal.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at doing more things, and I love that it feels normal. And I have an enormous amount of gratitude for the fact that it feels normal.
Yeah, there's that saying.
And
go ahead.
Oh, go for it.
I was going to say, there's that saying that we overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can do in 3 years. And it sounds like that was certainly the case for you.
Oh, cool. I like that. I haven't heard that before.
So, yes. And something else I wanted to mention is to tie into what you said now is I interviewed Jacob Sokol in episode 27, and I asked him how do we draw the line between wanting more in our lives and feeling like we're being greedy? And he said, it's not an either or. You can be grateful for what you have and still want more. So that also ties in really nicely. Quick question. Was there any Lego at your wedding day?
There was a little bit. There wasn't a ton, because my wife basically designed our entire wedding, and the traditional Lego color scheme didn't really fit with ours, although now Lego makes a huge rainbow of colors, and they're amazing things. There were a few things. I did a box that the rings were in.
Nice.
And now our wedding photo hard drive thing lives in. It's a white box with this tan bow. I made a little heart. It was purple, which is one of our wedding colors.
Nice.
And
You didn't have like a brick bow tie.
I did not have a brick bow tie. That was not part of it.
Not an option. So in the beginning of this interview, we mentioned something that I want to come back to before we get to some sort of final questions here. And you mentioned how one of the sort of most gratifying things, and you learned how to turn ideas into projects. And I was wondering, for people listening, like, how can we start exploring turning these hobbies into a means of an income, even if it's just on the side in the beginning?
Sure. I think for what a great starting place for anybody is what excites you. Mm-hmm. What do you want to do? Like, if you can close your eyes and imagine, the most exciting day, the most challenging day, maybe not just the most fun day, or even the most fun day. If you're all about just going in and running around with your friends and drinking a bunch, maybe there's a way to monetize that. There's kind of ways to monetize everything nowadays. But I think instead of thinking, okay, how do I make money, where so many people start, I think a great place to start is, what do I love to do? And if we start with what we love to do and really examine it, the odds are that there's a bunch of other people out there that love to do what you do. And thanks to technology and thanks to the ease of connection and communication, there's so many ways to connect with those other people, because you might be the only person in your town or your state or your country who loves to do this specific thing, but that doesn't matter anymore. There's thousands, tens of thousands, maybe millions of people out there who are also into your thing. And that means that you could write about it. If it's you love food, you could be, it's not only being a chef and opening a restaurant. You could be a food blogger. You could be a food reviewer. You could put out hilarious food videos. There's so many things that you can do around the thing that you love. That doesn't just take creativity. It doesn't just take like, oh, I love painting, but I have the belief that I'm a terrible painter. Like, okay, well, start working on painting, because maybe people would be shocked. That's another thing that I think is so important, is that the amount of skill that can be acquired just by practicing and just by trying. I think there's this idea of like effortlessness is really cool, and oh my gosh, like they're an overnight success. Like they just did it. They just walked onto the team. They just, the first audition they ever got, they booked the main role. Like those things happen. But what happens a million times more is somebody works on something for thousands of hours until they become good enough at it that people are like, oh yeah, I can see why you would do that. And more so than other people, they work on it for so long that they believe in themselves. Yeah. And because they can look at something they did 2 years ago and see a dramatic shift and imagine what will continue to improve, or where their skills will be, 2, 4, 6 years from then. So I think like really putting in effort to get to the stage that, excuse me, that the people can achieve. Like if you want to be a blogger, write. That's like, seems to be an example that I'm coming back to a lot, but it's like really all you need is opinions, which everybody has, and a keyboard attached to a screen, which most people have and everybody has access to. So the fact that like that is a job, I feel like literally anybody can tap into something that they are passionate about. And if somebody can't find what they're passionate about, that's which I'm sure some of your listeners or somebody out there just like, I don't know what fires me up. Like that is a time of just exploration. Then, find something or search for something. But if you don't know what you're passionate about, please don't let that get you down. Just be, emboldened by the challenge of being able to go out there and find what does fire you up. Because I think all of us are passionate about something. And I think the lucky ones are passionate about something specific. I think the luckiest ones of us are passionate about something that they have also figured out a way to make a living doing. But but there's some activity, some idea, some bite of food, some conversation, some travel destination. There's something out there that will light every single buddy up on this planet. And thank goodness it's not all the same thing, because we'd all be trying to do the exact same job and competition would be impossible.
Yeah, and I think there's also more than one thing that would light us up like that. So I know Adam Pozwalski has spoken about this. Like, everyone's on this mission to find that like one thing that they're passionate about. But there's probably a couple of things that you could do as a job that you'd be really pumped about. And I think people get so stressed out about like, I need to find that one thing, that they ignore other things that could have been really fulfilling as well.
Right. Yeah, I love doing what I'm doing, but I'm not positive that I will do it for, however many years I have left on this planet. Like, I love to do it. And, but creativity is my jam. Yeah. Like, that is when I'm most excited, when I'm creating, when I'm finding a clever solution for an existing challenge. So yeah, I mean, like, hosting the show on Soul Pancake, which is called Brick by Brick, has been so much fun. And the builds, while they don't consist of tens of thousands of pieces and aren't the most complicated builds, they're normally, 150 pieces or fewer. And, I can build them in a few minutes. And most people who watch can build them in like a half hour to an hour. While the builds haven't been like the most challenging thing, designing and creating pieces that are fun to build, that people can build along with, and that can improve people's communities or workspaces or days, or just bring a smile to somebody's face. Like, that is a whole different host of challenges. And that's been such a fun adventure, and continues to be a really fun adventure.
Yeah, Adam, I do want to be mindful of the time, but just before we wrap up, I've got some rapid fire questions here. So just the first thing that comes to your head, and yeah, like a sentence or two is perfect. So the first one is, what do you wish you'd been told in your 20s?
I wish that I'd been told in my 20s that I am not wrong for questioning the normal work dynamic, that those skepticisms and those thoughts about it not being for me, totally founded.
Yeah. Here's the one I mentioned earlier. What is the greatest opportunity for quarter lifers today?
Technology. Mm-hmm. The fact that we can connect with millions of people without, buying a Super Bowl ad for $10 million. Like, it's incredible that we can reach such a huge audience.
Yeah.
For free.
Before I get to the final question, what's the best place for people to go to connect with you and find out more about Brick by Brick and any other projects you have going on?
peaceandbricks.com is my website. I'm also at Peace and Bricks on Instagram and Facebook. Peace and Bricks. And Brick by Brick is on Soul Pancake's YouTube channel. So if you search Adam Ward Lego or Brick by Brick, or go to Soul Pancake, you'll be able to see episodes there. There's a bunch of episodes up there, and more coming in the spring.
Yeah, and I'll link to all of that in the show notes. Adam, I've got one more question. Before I get to that, I just want to acknowledge you for coming on today, and for questioning the sort of conventional path and realizing it wasn't for you, and sticking out the path that you've taken and turning it into a means of living. And I think it's really awesome what you're doing, sort of combining your childhood hobbies and love of Lego into a job and inspiring others to do the same. The final question that I have is, what one thing can listeners do this week to start creating their own quarter life comeback?
I think a great starting point is to ask yourself, what do you love? And imagine waking up every day and getting to be able to do that thing. And the first step to figuring out your quarter life comeback is what do you love? Is answering that question wholeheartedly, honestly, and really looking at what kind of business can surround that, or maybe not even to start, not even what kind of business, but how do you do what you love more?
I love it. Adam Ward, thank you so much for coming on the Quarter Life Comeback.
Brian, my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, man.
So there you have it, guys and girls. That wraps up episode 49 of the Quarter Life Comeback podcast. And thanks so much again to Adam for coming on the show and sharing his super, super cool story. After hearing that, I think there's no doubt that anybody can make a living doing what it is they love. And if you like this one, please share it around on social media and shoot me a tweet at Brian Tier to let me know your biggest takeaway. For me, again, it's the idea I just mentioned of you can do what you love and be paid to do it. And in order to do that, you just need to figure out what that is and then start thinking about ways that you can get people to give you money for it. Now, as always, you can get the links and resources we mentioned in this episode at briantier.com/049. And make sure you head on over to quarterlifecomeback.com to subscribe and get all these episodes as soon as they go live. Got some exciting interviews lined up, but until next week, keep creating your quarter life comeback.
Thanks for listening to the Quarter Life Comeback. Get started today by visiting briantier.com.